how did you integrate mindfulness into grit and vice versa?
I think, so like I said, grit is a very, very long-term perspective and isn't necessarily something that you can see in the short term. Absolutely, you engage in certain actions and behaviors in order to remain gritty over long terms, but it's not that if my long-term goal is to run the Boston Marathon, me going out for a run one morning isn't necessarily a gritty behavior. It's the accumulation of those behaviors. So to be gritty, you have to have that determination. And in order for us to have the excellent trait of perseverance, we have to be able to come up against setbacks in our life and overcome them. So I think mindfulness is a really, really great tool in our toolkits to use. When we experience those setbacks, we have those very, very reactive emotions, whether that's, I can't do this, screw this, I'm doing something else, I'm going to just watch Netflix all day instead and bury my feelings in a tub of Ben and Jerry's. Guilty. I think
Not always the worst thing you could do.
Oh, no. You could go set fire to a building. I think eating a tub of ice cream is much better of the two.
I'll sponsor your ice cream if you ever decide the former.
Perfect. We'll call the first one arson to reflect this conversation.
Perfect. Lots of definitions here today.
Exactly. I think mindfulness is something that is a skill that you can use in the short term to help overcome those setbacks. And again, see a difficult situation for truly what it is, not even though it might be a mountain, but truly seeing the mountain for what it is. And maybe it is a little bit more of that molehill, and then moving forward so that we can continue engaging in that long-term behavior that gets us to where we want to be.
Right. Okay. So just to unpack that a little bit from more of a neurochemistry perspective. The dopaminergic system is based on the motivation to achieve a goal. And it tends to be that the higher, the more overarching and strenuous the potential of achieving the goal, then the higher the dopamine. Mm-hmm. So by setting a high goal that's potentially out of reach for what your potential or what your current potential is, then that actually motivates us more. Mm-hmm. And we also need short-term goals, and those short-term goals help us to stay motivated. So by achieving the short-term goals, we're then further able to achieve our long-term goal, which is our big overarching goal that at the moment we think that it may be out of our reach. And so what you're saying is that with mindfulness, you're more able to achieve and work towards those small-term goals that then accumulate into your long-term goal, which is essentially grit. So you're taking the mindfulness, and I dislike the word biohacking, so I won't use it, but you're using mindfulness to achieve long-term positive or short-term positive reinforcement, and that becomes a positive feedback loop where once you get better at something, then you tend to continue to get better at that thing at an increasing rate, because once you get a little bit better at something, it becomes a little bit more fun. And once something becomes fun, then it becomes easier to train that thing. And it's just this super fun snowball effect, positive feedback loop that you fly into it. And then by using mindfulness in the short term, you can essentially manifest grit in the long term.
Yeah, I would say so. And even if it's not necessarily fun, even if you're having just a really crap day and you need that mindful minute or 5 or 60 in order to reset, and I don't know, like say you're writing a paper and you just can't even bring yourself to opening up the Word document. Maybe it's just like such a micro goal, it's you're opening up the Word document, and maybe you end up staring at the blinking cursor for an hour, or maybe you do end up putting in some work. That mindful experience can help you kind of achieve those micro goals on a day-to-day basis too. So whether that's that positive reinforcement, or even if that's just kind of bringing you back up to average, I think mindfulness can work in both respects. It's such a malleable skill to have.
Something that I found really interesting about mindfulness and meditation in general is the research into learning bouts and ultradian rhythm. So circadian meaning about a day, and then ultradian meaning about 90 minutes. So we tend to learn best in these 90-minute bouts. And the best way to consolidate information after a 90-minute learning bout is to have a non-sleep deep rest protocol. So whether that be a meditative state, or whether that be laying down in your bed or laying down on the couch with your feet elevated, and you set a 20-minute timer, and that seems to consolidate information the best. So I find that very interesting, that these ancient practices are doing things that we never could have understood at the time, but now that we have literature to back it up, we're saying, wow, these are things that they definitely weren't for nothing. These things that have survived for thousands upon thousands of years, probably longer than anyone could have ever imagined. And yeah, I find that very interesting, that those associate to each other.
Definitely. And like I'm a big supporter of light naps too. Like, that's great.
Totally. I'm a big fan of the 26-minute nap.
Yeah, I'm a 22er.
Oh,
so we're right in between. Yeah.
wow.